Hey guys, what's up? So it is the end, sadly, of season 4 of the LSBA. We did lose our first match of the finals versus Dylan, and I figured I might as well go into a postseason overview over how I thought about this season's team. I did not make one of these for last season, but I thought it would be a cool thing to do for this season. So without further ado, let's go into it, I suppose. So the first mom we drafted, of course, was our MVP from last season, which was the Manaphy. Although I did end up bringing it less often this season, I absolutely just love this mon. It just does so much work when you do end up bringing it. It's one of those mons that your opponent has to prep for, and so even if you don't end up bringing it, it's already putting in work because it's so centralizing on your opponent's team prep. So I absolutely love this mon. I do generally bring a tail glow set, just because that set is best in my opinion. That's why it was OU. It did get dropped down to UU, although I do think it's borderline right now. But you can run like a Calm Mind set. I did end up bringing a Choice Scarf set for that last match versus Dylan. You can, of course, use the Z Rain Dance set for that speed boost. A pretty unidimensional mon, but I do love it. I'm really glad I MVP'd it for this season. I could see myself MVPing it for next season, although I'm not setting my mind on that because there were a lot of mons on this draft this season that I did really enjoy and could see myself picking up the next season. Not much more to say about Manaphy. I just love this mon. As you guys know, if I didn't love this mon, obviously I wouldn't MVP it. Definitely a great mon, and I really enjoyed using it the last couple of seasons. Second mon I drafted was the Infernape, another mon that I was just so impressed with this Pokemon this season. I think it does lead my team in kills. I did end up bringing for the majority of the games a Choice Scarf set, just because I really love Choice Scarf Infernape because it outspeeds the vast majority of opponents, if not all opponents, because you don't really run Choice Scarf on mons above 108, and generally you don't even see mons 108 or even 105 scarfed. So it just ends up outspeeding basically your opponent's entire team. Hits pretty hard. It's not exactly a wall breaker with that 104 base attack and special attack, although it does hit relatively hard with its dual stabs. Flare Blitz in close combat. It has a really nice move pool on Gunk Shot, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch, U-turn, stuff like that. It gets rocks and stuff like that. So even though I did end up bringing Choice Scarf for the vast majority of matches, I really enjoyed this mon. Could definitely see myself bringing it in future matches. Um, I I even so I was bringing the Choice Scarf set, and generally that was more of an attacking set. Although I think I did bring a Z Sunny Day set one time with the special attack set. So that's definitely some options there. I really wish I was able to be more versatile with the set. The reason I kept bringing the Choice Scarf set because I felt like my team was really slow, and I really wanted to be able to outspeed some of my opponent's threats. Because versus the Alex, say for example, he had both the Charizard and the Volcarona, which I really needed something to outspeed them and able to revenge kill them if they do set up a Quiver Dance or a Dragon Dance. And then other stuff like that, I just really want to be able to outspeed that. So Infernape was really nice for that, and maybe in the future, if I do draft Infernape again, hopefully I would have a faster team so I don't have to rely on always running that Choice Scarf and be a little bit more versatile with that. Next mon was my Zapdos. I was a little disappointed with Zapdos this season. I feel like it wasn't Zapdos' fault. I feel like that was more my fault, because I ended up drafting it for the purpose of being a bulky defogger. And Zapdos, although Zapdos is phenomenal in that regard, in my opinion, it's one of the better defoggers in the game. As you guys know, I did end up drafting Mew further down along, and objectively, Mew is a better defogger than Zapdos without that weakness to Stealth Rocks, and it has better defenses, better support moves such as getting its own rocks, Thunder Wave as well as Will-O-Wisp and stuff like that. So I feel like I wasn't able to use Zapdos season to its full potential because I did end up drafting other mons such as Mew, other special attackers such as the Blastoise, such as the Nidoking, and stuff like that. Although I was a little disappointed with Zapdos, it felt like every time I tried to bring it, try to make some use of it, it ended up just falling flat for me. Either it didn't end up hitting the field because I just didn't need it, or when it did end up hitting the field, it just didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. So although I would like to potentially draft this mon in future seasons, I really need to draft this mon so that it actually plays a pivotal role in my team. When I was drafting, I was not planning on drafting Mew, so I was intending for Zapdos to be my main defogger. But then I did end up grabbing Mew up further along the line because it was just too good of a mon to pass up that late in the draft. And then Mew ended up being more central to my team than Zapdos was. And then the fourth mon I drafted was my Nidoking. So when I was going into the draft, I really knew I wanted these top four. So I wanted Manaphy, which is of course my MVP, Infernape, Zapdos, and Nidoking. These were the four mons that I knew I wanted. And then the rest of the mons I kind of had an idea of, but I wasn't too set on them. And obviously I kind of traded all of them except for Doublade and Mew. But all the rest of them ended up being traded somewhere along the line. But the Nidoking was I feel like tied for Infernape my favorite new Pokemon on my team this year. Just hits really hard with that Sheer Force Life Orb. I did end up bringing a Choice Scarf because does hit a nice speed tier at 85, so that at that +1 with the Choice Scarf, it outspeeds up to base 150 Mega Pokemon such as the Aerodactyl as well as the Alakazam. So it hits a really nice speed tier with that Choice Scarf. But of course, a Life Orb is the favorable set because it hits super hard. Generally run this as a special attacker, but I believe I did end up bringing a physical Nidoking once or twice this season. Although its special move pool is more versatile, it hits really hard with that Sheer Force Poison Jab on the physical side, and also gets the Elemental Punches as well as Sucker Punch. So that's really nice as well. I really enjoyed using Nidoking. Another one of kind of those unidimensional mons, just a really hard wall breaker. But I'm really glad I picked this up. I could definitely see myself using it in future seasons. And the next mon that was on my team, of course not an original draft mon, was my Mega Blastoise. I mean, Blastoise is a great mon, don't get me wrong, but I feel like for the majority of the time I had it this season, it was just kind of like a hole filler, something kind of a bulky mon, and I feel like in the matches, Blastoise was basically my sack mon when like the opponent had a really powerful mon in, and I didn't really have a good switch into it. Basically, Blastoise is the mon I threw out to be able to take the hit, sack it off, and then be able to go into the appropriate counter so that counter is nice and healthy and can revenge kill. Again, I feel like Blastoise, along with Zapdos, is just one of those mons that I really have to draft better around. It definitely fulfilled a really nice hole in my team as a good bulky rapid spinner as well as a bulky water. It's just in the future, if I want to draft Mega Blastoise, I need to draft around that mon, have that as an intentional part in my draft. Of course, as you guys know, I did trade for Mega Blastoise just before the season. I had Dhelmise originally, and I had Dhelmise as my kind of my Firewater Grass with my Manaphy and Infernape, and then the Dhelmise. But then I did end up trading for Shaman down the line, and then I felt like Dhelmise was a little bit redundant. I didn't see myself using it that much in the season, so I ended up trading it for Blastoise. So since Blastoise was a trade, of course I didn't draft around it. So again, like I said, kind of like Zapdos, it's definitely a good mon, and I could see myself using it in the future. It's just one of those mons that you have to. It's not really something you just slap on a team. It's something that you kind of have to support and have an intent for when you draft with it. And the other mon, I think this is the only mon that I traded for in season, is my Yanmega. So I did end up giving Swellow away in favor of Yanmega. Of course, I did originally have the Mega Sharpedo, which I ended up trading for Swellow. which midway through the season ended up trading for Yamega. Although I didn't really get to use Yamega too much in this season, I actually really enjoyed this mon. I think it ended up bringing it to two different matches. And I think this mon has a lot of potential. And I think I actually will draft it in future drafts just because I feel like there's a lot I didn't get to do with this mon. With the speed boost ability being able to come in as a late game sweeper, or the tinted lens set with the choice specs, basically having no switch ins, neutral coverage with a nice base 116 special attack set. I just really enjoyed Yod Mega, and I really wish I had traded for it earlier in the season so I really could have used its full potential. So like I said, I would definitely enjoy drafting this mon in future drafts, because there's just I feel like I wasn't able to cherish uh, this mon for the terror it really is. And then we have our Mew. What can I say? What can I not say about my Mew? Um, I'm going to have to take back what I said earlier about the Infernape and Nidoking. Mew is 100% my favorite new mon on the team. I think it ended up coming to the majority of my matches, if not all my matches. I can't presently think of a single match that I didn't bring my Mew, just because I did end up bringing mostly as a defensive mon, physically defensive with like soft boiled Will-O-Wisp, Stealth Rock, Fog, or stuff like that. And I just love defensive Mew first of all because it just walls so many mons. And it is so bulky. It's definitely not the bulkiest mon out there, such as Slowbro, or Toxapex, although Toxapex can't really compare because they're two different types and they do two different roles. But you guys know what I mean. Like Mew is just a fantastic defensive mon, but it is so versatile as well, being able to be a cleric. It can be a support role with like stealth rocks and spread status, and its ability synchronize can help it spread that status, be a little bit trolly that way, and it has the ability to be a really nice offensive mon as well, with the ability to set up nasty plots. It does get rock polish. I wasn't able to pull off a rock polish. I really wanted to try that sometime this season, but I didn't really feel like any of my matches really called for that. I really enjoy my Mew, and this is actually contending for my MVP slot for next season with Manaphy, because this mon is just so good. I absolutely loved using it this season. Um, and I can't say anything bad about Mew, honestly. I'm surprised that it lasted till the 7th round when I ended up picking up Mew. It is just so good. I'm glad that Noivern was picked up because I think I went over this in my draft analysis video, but I was intending to pick up Noivern. But that ended up getting picked by Rodney, so I ended up grabbing Mew instead. And I'm so glad that I did that because Mew just played such a pivotal role in my team this season. I don't know how I would have survived without it. A great, great mon. And then we have the Shaman, so I did end up drafting the Aromatisse as my Cleric mon. But then I ended up trading what was it originally? Uh, I don't remember. I ended up trading something for Lickilicky. Oh, it was Chestnut. I had Chestnut. Ended up trading Chestnut for Lickilicky, and then I felt like that was a little redundant having two clerics on the team. So I dropped Aromatisse for Shaman because I dropped the Delmise for Mega Blastoise, and I needed a good grass type. And I'm really glad I picked up Shaman. It was one of those bonds that didn't really come too often to too many matches, but when it did come, it performed its role and it performed its role well. It wasn't an outstanding mon. It wasn't like Mew, where it's kind of like, wow, this is a great mon. And it wasn't like Blastoise or Zapdos, where it just kind of fell flat for me. Like, I can't really say too many good things about this, about Shaman, but I can't say anything bad about it either. I mean, like I said, when it came, it performed its role well. It did what I needed it to do, and then that was really it. It like Healing Wished, set up Leech Seeds, got Seed Flares off, has a nice move pool, good choice Scarfer. So yeah, I mean, Shaman is definitely a good mon. I wouldn't mind drafting it in later seasons, although I could definitely see myself bypassing it in favor of different mons, different clerics, different grass types as well. Um, but if my team needed it, I could definitely pick this mon again. And then we come to Dewblade. I mean, so I'm sorry, Chestnut, but Dewblade has become my favorite mon to use in draft format. This is such a great mon, honestly. It is so easy to slap on a team. It has such a myriad of resistances. It goes steel typing is such an amazing defensive typing. And of course, with that base 150 defensive coupled with Eviolite, makes it such a great defensive wall. And then even though it does have a base 49 special defense stat, that Eviolite does patch up really nicely, and it can perform pretty nicely as a special tank as well. And then one base 110 attack stat is nothing to scoff at. Able to set up sword stances with access to priority Shadow Snake, access to pursuit, Gyro Ball with that base 35 speed stat is also really nice. I just love Dewblade. Um, it's just such a great mon. I mean, like similar to Mew, I can't say anything bad about Dewblade. I mean, sure, it could. I would love for it to have better special defense stat. While right, I might as well give him more attack stat and whatnot. But I mean, no mon is perfect. Dewblade definitely has its weaknesses, but Dewblade, I think at the end, definitely towards the end of the season, it ended up being a mon where my opponents definitely had to prep for. Like opponents ended up bringing like knockoff or trying to trick it and stuff like that. Towards the end of the season, opponents just really started realizing how much of a threat Dewblade is because it just walls so many mons so easily. And then of course its few weaknesses it does have such as to fire and to ground types are so easy to patch up. And I feel like it just had really great. It has great synergy on any team. Honestly, you can use it as a bulky offense. You can use it as a balance, as a stall mon. Um, I mean, obviously, it doesn't have really a good role in hyper offense. But Dewblade is just my new favorite draft type mon. Honestly, like it's just so great. And so now we have Tyrantrum, which was, I believe, the first mon I traded for. I originally had Dredagon, and I traded it for Tyrantrum because I saw that Skirk had the Victini, and I really wanted a good Victini counter. Similar to Shaman, um, Tyrantrum is one of those mons that I didn't end up bringing too often, but when it did come, it did a really good job. And I think actually around the middle of the season, it was actually leading my kill board. And I don't think I ended up bringing it like the last 4 games or so. But I really enjoyed this mon. Able to set up dragon dances. The rock head smash is just so good. It hits really hard with base 121's attack stat. I think I ended up bringing a choice band set once, or maybe it was life 4. But dragon dance, choice scarf, choice band, um, just hits insanely hard. I really enjoy this mon as like a budget wall breaker, similar to Dragalgy last year. Actually, both seasons I played in the LSBA, I kind of had like a budget wall breaking dragon type that um, ended up doing really well in my season. I'm definitely really happy with them. Um, but yeah, like Tyrantrum, I really enjoyed using. I could definitely see myself picking this mon up in later seasons. Um, yeah, don't really have much more to say about Tyrantrum. And then we have Lickilicky. So I did not originally draft Lickilicky. I had Chestnut at first, and I really needed something to counter weather because I had to face Skirk with his dual weather in Hail and Sun, and then Rodney had his rain. So I really wanted something to be able to counter those. So I really wanted a Cloud9 user. So I ended up drafting Lickilicky, and I am so glad I did, honestly, because it's just so bulky. Skirk, like Lickilicky was Skirk's like number 1 mon to prep for, which I thought was really funny. It performs its role as a cleric extremely well. Unfortunately, you can't run Cloud9 as well as Wish and or Heal Bell the same set. But I mean, I really enjoyed using this. and it surprisingly actually runs Assault Vest really well, even though it only has base 85 attack stat. It doesn't hit insanely hard, but because of its insane bulk, it can take on most mons with an Assault Vest pretty well. So yeah, I really enjoyed using Licky Licky a lot this season. And I may end up drafting it next season because like I said, it's just a really good budget cleric. And even not budget really, honestly. Like obviously ones like Rotom 2 or Rotom 2, Porygon 2, excuse me, um, are and like Snorlax are objectively better, bulkier mons. Um, but I mean, Lickily definitely does its role extremely well, and the fact that it's PU always surprises me because, like, throughout using this season, like, it definitely feels at least an NU of non RU mon. But oh well, I really enjoyed using Lickilicky. But yeah. So as for the draft as a whole, so you guys have probably been like, hopefully been listening in and like, except for Blastoise and Zapdos, you guys have been probably been thinking, well, I've just like liked all of my mons this draft, and I did. I really enjoyed all of my mons that I drafted this season. The problem is I enjoyed a lot of the mons, but I didn't really like the draft as a whole. So there's a lot of individual mons that I really liked, such as Infernape, such as Mew, such as Doublade, such as Licky, that I liked individually by themselves, but as like a team, it felt somewhat lacking. And I really preferred my draft last season a lot better. And so when I was going into last season, I knew what I wanted. So I really wanted my Firewater Grass core. I went in with Tentacruel as a good bulky water type, as a rapid spinner. And I was like, okay, that's especially bulky. That's weak to ground. So I wanted Chestnut because it's physically bulky and resists ground. Um, and then Chestnut's weak to flying, so I drafted Rotom Heat. And then both Tentacruel and Chestnut are weak to Psychic, so I drafted Mandibuzz. And then I really needed an offensive threat as well as Stealth Rock, so I drafted Mamoswine. And then I needed a good special attacker, so I drafted Manaphy. And then a good wall breaker, so I drafted Dragalge, and et cetera, et cetera. And with this draft, although I did have those first four mons, Manaphy, Infernape, Zapdos, and Nidoking, those were the four mons that I knew I wanted. The rest of my draft, I kind of just traded for, like Blastoise, Yanmega, Shaman, Tyrantrum, and Lickilicky. None of those were my original draft. And though I enjoyed using all those mons, and individually they performed their roles well, as a team they didn't really synergize that well. Lickilicky and Doublade synergize extremely well, with Lickilicky's one defense or one weakness being fighting type, and Doublade being able to resist or being immune to those fighting types, and then Doublade being extremely bulky but with no recovery, and Lickilicky being able to pass wishes. I really like those two mons together. However, the rest of the team I feel like just didn't synergize well. They didn't really fit. Whereas last season's team, they just fit really nicely. I really liked how the team synergized together. Um, so even though I had a better record this season, I was 9-1 this season versus last season I was 8-2. Um, so even though I had a better record this season, I feel like that was just kind of chance, just kind of happenstance, and I really didn't feel like my team was better. I feel like my team was just somewhat lacking a little bit. So even though I could definitely see myself redrafting all of the mons that I used this season, I really want to go into next season's draft with a plan and a synergy that goes with my team really well. The other problem I had with this team was it was a little bit more offensive than I usually like, with stuff like Manaphy, Infernape, Nidoking, Yanmega, Tyrantrum, Mew in a sense, Zapdos also in a sense. It was just more. My team was more balanced, I would say. It has those offensive threats, and then Doublade and Lickilicky and Shaman and Blastoise to kind of like support those. And generally, I like more bulky offense. That's like last season with my Chestnut, with Tentacruel, with Mamoswine, with Dragalge, with Uniclus, Doublade, stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed using this team this season, and I hope that next season I'll have more of a plan going into the draft, and be able to pick more to my liking. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as well as the videos I've been making throughout the season. Perhaps next season I would like to continue making these videos. I've been thinking about like maybe doing some recording of like showdown and stuff like that. Kind of doing it outside of draft videos. But that's in the future. I'm kind of like a little busy. I have a little like tight schedules right now, so those aren't going to come anytime soon if I do end up doing those. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed our videos. And I'll see you guys next season of the LSBA. Thanks for watching, guys.